All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Smark Avengers. This is just going to be a cold open on this one, I feel. My name's Corey, and with me are Dylan and John. How's it going, guys?
You want us to talk some shit real quick and then put that as the intro?
I don't know. The last episode that just aired is the one that starts with me calling Elton John a scumbag, and I think that's just a real fun way to open a show.
Want to do it again?
Yeah, Elton John's a scumbag.
Could we get him on the show?
Yes, that'd be very entertaining.
Wouldn't it? It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Least viewed episode of time.
Is his retirement tour still going on?
No, that finished.
No, I don't think so.
A while ago,
yeah.
All right. Well, so this is Volume 4, Episode 2 of the Smark Avengers, and this is kind of an interesting one to do because we're going to be basically doing one of our lost episodes. Volume 2, we had 2 episodes that the audio quality was just really bad because I was on an old laptop that was on its last legs. And as a result of that, the episodes never made air because the quality was just so poor. So this time we're going to go back to that and discuss what we think are some of the worst storylines that we've ever had the displeasure of reading. So we're going to do one each because these, I imagine, will be kind of in-depth to talk about why they are so bad. But anybody have a particular urge to go first?
I think the worst storyline was probably the Death Riders.
That's still ongoing.
John, what do you
still
think?
Ongoing.
Well, then the Young Bucks taking over AEW. That was the worst one. What do you think, John?
I would agree with that. Yes,
Yeah.
It was a very, very bad storyline.
All right. Well, this was a great episode.
Bye, everybody.
See you later. Elton John, give us a ring.
Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road.
Well, he's here. Oh my God, he's here.
Oh my God. Just like hit myself really hard in the mouth and I'll give myself a big gap.
You can't slag off Elton John if you just accidentally punch yourself in the mouth. Come on now.
Oh dear. Anyway, but yes. Anybody, I can go first if that's cool with everybody then.
Yeah, go for it.
So I actually did this one on the last because when I think of a bad storyline, I think of one that overstayed its welcome, that nobody enjoyed, and that even the writers make fun of. And I'm going to be talking about the time that Dick Grayson got shot in the head and got amnesia and changed his name to Ric Grayson and was an entirely different character for 2 years.
I mean, just from that brief description, it sounds bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, this kind of came about. Dick Grayson is, of course, Nightwing. In the comics, he was the very first Robin.
I know that. I know that
one. There you go. 2 points for Dylan.
Well.
Keep track of that. We'll add that to next time we have a trivia contest. We're gonna add those 2 points to you immediately. You just get to start off 2-0.
God damn it!
And then I end up losing like
by 30,
58 to like -4. I'm like, how did I get minus points?
That'll be the twist we add to the next one. You lose points if you get a question wrong.
Oh my God!
Jeopardy style.
We would be here forever.
But yes, so Dick Grayson's kind of there was a period of time, there's a very long period of time actually, where the editor of DC Comics was a man by the name of Dan Didio, and or Dan Didio, depending on how you want to pronounce his name.
How do you want to pronounce his name?
I like Dan Didio.
I like Didio.
You like Didio?
Yeah.
Don?
It rolls up the tongue better, I think.
I think Didio, whatever.
Didio.
Didio.
Dan had this weird hate for Dick Grayson that for years it kept like coming up, like this idea that he was going to try to kill off the character. The very first time was in Infinite Crisis, which is a storyline where a version of Superman from a parallel world crossed over into the comics world, the DC Comics world, and became so disgusted by everything, he started to unmake reality. And so the idea was that he was going to kill Dick Grayson, and then that got leaked, and the response was really bad, and so they kind of pulled away from it. The second time was during the New 52, where there was a storyline called Forever Evil, I believe, in which the villains were to have won, And in that, Dick Grayson was captured. His identity was exposed to the world. And then a bomb got planted into his chest to go off if his heart stopped. So they ended up faking his death and ending his tenure as Nightwing, and the Grayson Agent of Spiral storyline came about, where basically for about a year or so, maybe even 3 years, he became a secret agent, and he was not a costume hero any longer. Agent Grayson. Then, of course, that got undone. He came back to being Nightwing, and we end up with our Ric Grayson storyline after a few years. So this came about because of Tom King. Tom King almost got on this a separate time for the story Heroes in Crisis. Tom King's kind of infamous because, for me, he does really well with small characters, and I think he does miserably with big characters. In that, like, he was doing the Batman and Catwoman are going to get married storyline, where for some reason they kept calling each other Bat and Cat over and over again, like it was their nicknames, and it was really jarring for some reason.
That's how you tell them apart.
Yeah, Bat, Cat. Exactly. And part of that storyline is Thomas Wayne, who was the kind of dark anti-hero version of the Earth 2 Flashpoint Batman, where in the Flashpoint world, Bruce Wayne was the one who was shot and killed in the alley. Thomas Wayne became Batman, and his wife became the Joker. So, Flashpoint, everybody. Enjoy. Anyway, he and Bane were going to do one of Bane's favorite plot lines, which is, I'm going to take Gotham for myself and remove Batman from the picture. And they decided to do that by showing off how Batman's extended family weakened him, and that he would be better off if he was alone. So part of that was a villain by the name of the KG Beast was hired by Bane. I love naming DC Comics characters just for Dylan's reaction alone. The KG Beast.
That's why we switched to the video format now.
Yep.
Because you couldn't see the pain and anguish on my face whenever Corey comes up with this terrible name. But that has existed for 40. Yeah, it's already existed for 40 years. You know.
So anyway, they hired the KG Beast to kill Nightwing, and Nightwing gets shot in the head. And it's a big shocking. Yeah, it's a big shocking thing where Nightwing drops dead. Except he's not dead. He merely gets amnesia.
Because that's what happens when you get shot in the head.
Yep. The shooting. So this is somebody in a Reddit group called Hobby Drama summarized all of this very well, and they provided a lot of background context, which I feel like is going to be very essential to this. So, in Batman number 55, written by Tom King and drawn by Tony Daniel, Nightwing had been assisting Batman on a case when he was shot in the head by a KG Beast. The shooting was part of a greater elaborate plan by Bane to effectively isolate, hurt, and gaslight Batman into complete and utter misery. King's original plan was to have Dick recover in the following issues of Batman, as he didn't want to encroach on Benjamin Percy's plans, who had just been announced as the new writer for Nightwing. Editorial, however, insisted on having that injury carry over into Nightwing. King first pitched the idea that the third Robin, Tim Drake, would join the cast as Nightwing, and he would help Dick recover while running around in the Nightwing costume. Editorial had other plans, however, according to former Nightwing writer Tim Seeley, that they wanted to do a Nightwing amnesia arc for a long time, and they finally were getting their chance to do so. So,
why for a long time were they like, we gotta give this fucking guy amnesia, and then every week they're pitching it like, what about the amnesia bit? Like, again, Carl, I don't think it's not right. Not the right time for the. And he goes home to his wife, and they're like, how did the amnesia storyline work? He's like, I don't want to talk about it.
It's unknown if Percy had refused to write it or if he'd simply been kicked off without second thought, but DC Editorial had their man, and they didn't care about Percy's future plans. Shortly after Percy departed the title, DC quietly changed the listings for Nightwing number 51 to 53 to reflect the new status quo, to be written by a highly despised writer, Scott Lobdell. Scott Lobdell was, for a long time, one of the most hated writers at DC for good reason. His works had been widely panned for excessively juvenile dialogue, edgy plots that went nowhere, and creepy sexual situations. Lobdell is also known for multiple acts of sexual harassment, some of which he's even admitted to.
Oh dear.
I mean, it's rough whenever he admits it, and they're still like, "Yeah, let's have him on the show. Let's keep him writing our comics."
According to Lobdell, editorial was originally interested in dedicating only 3 issues to the Ric Grayson storyline, is how we're going to refer to this as. But Lobdell insisted on making it last as long as possible, believing that it could be as impactful as Barbara Gordon becoming Oracle. It should be noted that Lobdell ended up only writing 8 issues. He also expressed resentment that fans loved the previous Nightwing stories, in particular the Agent Grayson storyline, so much that he told readers that if they didn't like his story, stop criticizing my writing then.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Under Lobdell's pen, the amnesiac Dick renamed himself Rick for unknown reasons. Can I just say,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
Amnesia Dick.
Amnesia Dick.
I feel like you just glossed over that. You gotta understand how that sounds to us.
Amnesia sounds like Dick. A great band name.
I was gonna say Amnesia Dick is going on my list of band names because that is phenomenal.
I'm gonna expect the next time we start a Skype call that your username is going to appear as Amnesia Dick.
Amnesia Dick. I'm annoyed that it's. I mean, I'm getting close.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Dick renamed himself Rick for unknown reasons and took a job as a taxi driver in Bloodhaven while also squatting in people's homes. He was written as a smarmy jerk who constantly rejected his family's attempts to help him, as his new identity as Rick was a life choice and not the result of a near-fatal gunshot wound. To further drive this point home, Lobdell also introduced a new girlfriend named Bee and pitted her against Dick's longtime love interest Barbara Gordon in an awkward love triangle. In addition, to all of this, a group of police officers found Dick's old costumes and made themselves the new, quote, Nightwings to, well, circumvent the law. So essentially that is what happened. A group of 3 police officers and a fireman were frustrated that Bloodhaven was so corrupt that they inadvertently found one of Nightwing's old lairs where some of his costumes were. So they went, aha, I will put on these costumes and we will be Nightwing. So there's these 4 people dressed as Nightwing running around, 2 of them with guns, 1 of them with a police baton, and the last one with a fucking fireman axe. I'm Nightwing and I'm here to save the day with an axe.
Yeah.
Fan reaction, suffice to say, was highly negative. Fans didn't like Lobdell. They didn't like the gaps in logic, such as Rick returning to Bloodhaven despite having no memory of it, or him suddenly being homeless. They didn't like how Lobdell tried to present Dick's brain trauma as if it were a life choice, or how the Bat family were portrayed as being in the wrong for wanting to help him heal and recover his memories. The storyline was hated by virtually everyone outside of a small but aggressively vocal group of Scott Lobdell fans. Fans grumbled on Twitter nonstop, frequently yelling at official DC accounts. Vitriol was directed towards Lobdell, Didio, and King, though Tom King later explained he had nothing to do with the Ric Grayson storyline. It also didn't help that Kelly Sue DeConnick's Aquaman was going through an amnesiac arc at the same time. The difference, though, was Aquaman's amnesia lasted only a few issues and was additive towards future story arcs.
And also, he didn't get shot in the head.
No. The amnesia plot interfered with several other books, too. Dan Abnett, who had been writing Titans, dropped some thinly veiled meta-commentary about his book suddenly losing direction without its lead character. Batgirl writer Margaret Scott was excluded from Bat Family meetings and had to rewrite her own scripts due to sudden, unspecified changes that were passed down to her book, to the point where she quit. Peter Tomasi, who had expressed excitement in bringing Nightwing for his run into Detective Comics, didn't end up doing so outside of a special funeral issue for Alfred Pennyworth, in which Rick spent most of the time awkwardly saying things like, I don't know Dick, but if he were here, he would have said this. Things turned a bit nuclear when in Nightwing number 58 was solicited, and another infamous name was attached to it, co-writer Eric Esquivel. Just a few days earlier, allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse had come out against him as well.
Oh, dear.
Fans were enraged, questioning how the hell did DC manage to put not 1 but 2 sexual harassers on the same book. Supposedly, DC had planned for him to be on the book long term, but quickly dropped him in response to the allegations and backlash. A month later, Scott Lobdell was replaced on Nightwing by writer Dan Jurgens. Dan Jurgens is an industry vet, but one with a much better resume. He was instrumental in Death of Superman. He created Booster Gold. So he's a very respected writer. He was brought in with very little fanfare, and most readers expected him just to be a stopgap until the next big change. In interviews, Jurgens did not express any enthusiasm, usually preferring to talk about Superman instead. Still, he did attempt to do some damage control and ironed out some of the worst aspects of tenure by attributing all of this to a conspiracy by the Court of Owls. As established in previous storylines, the Court of Owls had been wanting to recruit Dick Grayson into their ranks for years. Here, they took advantage of the gunshot wound to manipulate him and suppress his memories, making it easier to indoctrinate him. They had infiltrated the hospital where he'd been taken and lied to the Bat family about the extent of his injuries. With the involvement of the Court of Owls, fans found reasons to be excited again, especially since the Court of Owls plot was tying into a greater scope Year of the Villain event in Justice League. Under Jurgens' pen, Rick embraced heroism and protecting innocence more readily and wasn't so hostile to the rest of the Bat family. Readers thought that Dick's return was imminent, and there were numerous teases scattered throughout. However, Year of the Villain came and went, the Court of Owls were defeated by Ric Grayson, and yet, he was still Ric Grayson. This time he had two sets of memories, his real memories, and a conflicting set of memories in which he was raised by the Court of Owls and assassinated Bruce Wayne. For some reason, it never occurred to Rick that he should just type in, "Is Bruce Wayne dead?" in a Google search to find out which one was true. By this point, fans had lost their patience and rallied against DC on Twitter. On Reddit, fans protested by posting their favorite Dick Grayson moments, often under the hashtag, quote, "We want Dick."
Oh, you know what? It's not a terrible place. It's not 100% terrible. There's still some jokes going on there. You know?
Much of the anger was directed at DC and Dan Didio, specifically with Jurgens more or less being let off the hook. On Twitter, frustrated readers tweeted at Jurgens telling him that they despised the story, but still appreciated his attempts to make the most out of it. Funnily enough, I couldn't find any interview that stated whether or not Didio personally pushed for the Amnesia arc or if he just signed off on it with indifference. After the ordeal with the Court of Owls came yet another event tie-in, this time with the Batman title called Joker War. And once again, there were teases of Dick's return, but fans were too cynical to get excited. Ironically, the return was real this time. In Nightwing number 74, late 2020, after a weird plot in which the Joker mind-controlled Ric Grayson into beating up the other Robins, Dick finally recovered his memories with the help of Batgirl and Rick's girlfriend, Bee, and everyone was happy again, except for Bee, who was then dumped and put into the friend zone 2 issues later. Jurgens ended his run shortly after some cleanup duties, just in time for DC to do a soft line-wide relaunch called Infinite Frontier. By the time it was over, fans were left relieved, but also disgruntled. Fans noted that this hated Ric Grayson saga lasted 2 years, around the same length of time as the highly acclaimed run like Batman Reborn and Grayson, both of which were considered to have been ended prematurely thanks to line-wide company relaunches, the New 52 and Rebirth, respectfully. My guess, which is just me spitballing and not based on anything gleaned from interviews, is that DC would have ended it earlier, but decided to extend it because they were going to do another line-wide relaunch. In March of 2021, fan favorite creative team of writer Tom Taylor and artist Bruce Redondo took over Nightwing. The new direction takes something of a grounded slice of life approach, and the reception has been very, very positive. Ric Grayson saga has just become a weird pastime that other writers take shots at. Comic readers who resist any sort of change in status quo are quick to point that Ric Grayson is a prime example of why any change is bad, as opposed to poor management or nepotism. Dan DiDio was fired in 2020 for reportedly fostering a poor work environment. And Scott Lobdell has not worked at DC ever since. Bob Harris was laid off. And since then, even more sexual harassment allegations have come out against him. And there you go.
A lot more sexual harassment in that story than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah, 100%.
Going to be honest with you.
Yeah. So the important thing is, how did Ric Grayson get his memories back? Well,
he find them in a shoebox under his house.
You're not far off. The Court of Owls stole his memories from him because, again, a gunshot wound to the head wouldn't make you lose your memories. It would kill you, most assuredly. but it wouldn't make you lose your memories unnecessarily.
Well,
what happened
I would say that if you shot, like in your head, like part of your brain would be removed. So there's a good chance that yes, you would technically lose your memories.
Yeah, if you survive the initial gunshot wound.
Yeah.
But what if it was a glancing blow with little kicks? Thank you for that. That one was just for us.
What was the pod? We should have done this in the last episode. What was the podcast where we first brought that inside joke to the people's attention that you don't understand?
God, I have no idea. You'd have to really go back.
When was that? That was probably like September, I think.
Been a bit
October.
It's a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Court of Owls, when Dick Grayson was in the hospital with a gunshot wound and they were treating it, used a crystal to take his memories away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the Joker War, Joker got his hands on that crystal, used it to rewrite Dick's memories again, this time making him think that Dick Grayson was adopted by the Joker and his new girlfriend / sidekick Punchline, and used that to make Dick Grayson attack all of his friends and family.
I like how you were like, oh, the Joker just got his hands on it. Like they left the fucking memory crystal.
They found the memory crystal and he got it.
Is this
Nightwing's memories? It's Nightwing's memories.
How do you know? You see a crystal, you pick it up, you go, I think there's memories inside here. You're like, what the
There's a little sticker on it that said Dick Grayson's memories.
Joker went, oh man, it's so convenient.
It's in like it's in the box and it says Dick's memories, do not touch.
Yeah.
So yeah, he used it, had Dick Grayson attack his friends and family. They got B, his ex-girlfriend, or his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, and his ex-girlfriend, future girlfriend, Barbara, got the crystal back, destroyed it, Dick got his memories back, and Nightwing's back to normal.
He destroyed the crystal.
Yeah.
And that brought his memories back?
Apparently.
If you destroyed the crystal, wouldn't that destroy the memories?
Yeah.
Listen. They were just looking for a way to end this shit. I'm convinced that was it. They were like, Dan, you got 3 issues to wrap this up. And Dan went, thank God.
Yeah.
Get me off of this fucking book.
He probably did the best he could.
So my favorite part about that as well was what happened to the Nightwings, the 3 police officers and the fireman dressed up like Nightwing running around. Well, there was Ric Grayson decided he would help them become better crime fighters because he had all of his muscle memory as being Nightwing, even though he didn't want to be Nightwing. So he would like help them out while dressed as a civilian. Because that's what you want to read. You want to read the hero of the book, not actively being the hero of the book.
Yeah.
And then they had an encounter with the Joker that terrified the shit out of them, and then they all stopped being Nightwing.
The end.
And that was the last time anyone ever heard of these characters.
Why not just have the Joker beat the shit out of them like he used to do?
Or kill
I
them.
think he did one of them. He didn't kill any of them, but he beat the shit out of one of them for sure.
He should have killed them all, I think.
Should have.
Because then the guy's like, don't worry, everybody, I got this fucking fire axe.
Yeah.
I'll stop this clown.
Do you think Joker saw that and he went, what the fuck? They're fighting with fire axes now.
What are you guys doing? This is crazy. It says the man dressed up as a clown who was clinically insane.
With his girlfriend, Punchline, right beside
him. I don't like that.
You don't like Punchline?
No.
She's meant to be like if Harley Quinn wasn't cute and silly and funny. Like she's like more of a sociopath.
Oh.
She's
actually, I do like it then.
Yeah, she's not a bad character. She's not a bad character.
I don't like I don't like calling it Punchline.
You don't like the name Punchline?
No.
Fair enough.
I don't like.
Well, you would really hate Clown Hunter then. Yeah, there was this is not related to this particular story, but the writer for Detective Comics for a period of time was James Tynion IV. And he decided to create his own characters, including, I think, Ghost Killer?
You can't kill Ghost, Corey. They're already dead.
Yeah. Clown Hunter, Miracle Molly, and Punchline. These were the 4 characters that were going to be the future of the Batman franchises. Not a single one of them are used anymore.
I hate them.
Maybe Punchline will get used, but everybody else not so much.
Baby Punchline. Yeah.
Baby Punchline. Nobody gives a shit about Miracle Molly or Clown Hunter or any of those other bullshit characters.
Why would you care about a character called Clown Hunter? That sounds awful.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? Well, I hunt and buy clowns. Don't want to brag, but I'm pretty good at it.
I've tied a batarang to a baseball bat, and I use it to beat clowns to death.
Yeah. So, can I get your number, or what do you think?
Well,
like stay away from me, Clown Hunter.
So that's the tale of Ric Grayson. The Nightwing book after that by Tom Taylor it was a fun read. It was incredibly fluffy. Like there was not a lot of, it never felt like there was any like real heavy duty stakes in the book. But after 2 years of Ric Grayson, I feel like the Nightwing fans deserve something a little nicer.
Wait till we start writing it.
Yeah.
Guess what's coming back? Memory Crystal.
Memory Crystals. Ric Grayson's back, and he brought his ex-girlfriend B with him. She's now a pirate queen. I'm not even joking. They decided to do that too.
Well, that's good.
She's a pirate. Yeah, she was a bartender, but her dad was actually a pirate king. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Pirate king.
Don't worry about it. Pirate king. Yes.
Pirate king.
So John, Dylan, who would like to go next?
What do you think, John?
I mean, I'm not looking forward to talking to about mine, but maybe it's best to rip the bandage and just do it. Get it out there.
Do it. Well, listen, it's got part of it involves something that you like talking about.
Well, so, I wouldn't say I like talking about it. I just happen to,
repeatedly bring it up on the
conversation. Yeah, it's just a natural, response.
It is. It's a natural thing. It happens to all of us.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But maybe we should stop teasing people and get to the substance of this story.
We're gonna talk about the substance.
I call it my substance. Yeah.
Okay, so for mine, I went with a storyline from 2004 in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, issues 509 to 514.
It was all the way in 2004? I thought it was like a little closer than that.
No,
I was still in high
not.
school.
My God.
So yes, this is a storyline by the name of Sins Past, written by J. Michael Straczynski.
That legend.
JMS.
Yeah.
Immediate eye roll. Fucking JMS.
You can see that again. Why we do the video podcast to see Corey get really annoyed at Straczynski.
Fucking
not
hate
this
JMS.
fucking. I gotta get Clown Hunter in to hunt this clown. You know what I mean?
Well, so the basic gist of it is basically Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's first love, wholesome Gwen Stacy, who was like, basically an angel in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man to begin with. Mm-hmm. It's revealed that right before she was killed by the Green Goblin, she had become pregnant and given birth to twins, Sarah and Gabriel. And who was the father of these twins?
Peter Parker. Case closed.
It was in fact Norman Osborn, Peter Parker's sworn enemy, and the real life identity of the Green Goblin.
I see the face. I just see that face.
It's just, yeah.
That's funny because I know what face you're talking about, but like whenever I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of the thumbnail of the you know what I want to, you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
That's the face I pictured.
Continue.
Basically, it all came about because Gwen was like having a bit of a fallout with Peter, and I think Harry at the time was in a bit of a rough place as well. So Gwen ended up going to see Norman about something, and then one thing led to another somehow, which makes, zero sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Where would this come from? But either way, so she gets pregnant. She goes off to France for like 3 months, but for some reason, and I'll reveal the reason in a second, the pregnancy is like speeded up for some reason. So it turns out that Norman Osborn's love custard was.
That was the worst way you could have said it.
Oh, there's so many other ways I could have been phrased.
What? It basically, being infected with the goblin serum and everything, it managed to.
Love custard.
I call it. What was it? I called it.
I don't want to know what you called it. The substance.
Substance. I call it substance. John calls it love custard. Corey, what do you call it?
I just imagine it's chunky for some reason because the expression
Custard.
love custard.
Yeah.
Infected
custard.
love custard.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's got some chunks to it.
Yeah.
Imagine it's like an egg salad.
Oof.
Yeah. Well,
I'm making it worse.
This is.
We didn't think we could make it worse. But... So
now we're thinking about textures.
So anyway, these twins got given birth to, and then Gwen went back to America, and then she died shortly afterwards. And there was no one to look after the twins, but Norman, famously kind of faked his death when he got killed in the aftermath of killing Gwen, and went off back to Europe. And so the story was that he'd gone back there and then sort of overseen them growing up, and started manipulating them from a young age, as you'd expect someone like Norman Osborn to do.
Mm-hmm.
And basically made them believe that Peter Parker was their real father, and he was also the one responsible for Gwen's death. Which, again, going back to like what you were talking about, Corey, like surely they could just Google it and then see, like, Green Goblin kills teenage girl on George Washington Bridge. But
I imagine that was in the news. I imagine that would have been an article.
Yeah.
Peter seems like he would have had some pull in the fucking Daily Bugle to get that ran.
Yeah. Who's gonna write the story? Where are we gonna get the photographs from? Impossible.
Basically a few years go by, and these twins, again, like the growth is all speeded up because of the goblin baby gravy, and they turn into adults and then come back to New York to try and get revenge on Peter Parker for killing their mom. But obviously Peter's like not believing their story. He's like, no, you can't be Gwen's kids. She didn't get pregnant. But then like they start trying to sort of go deep into it to try and make it so no, there's no way that this is fake. Like saying that Peter digs up Gwen's grave to get DNA from her corpse to test against these kids. And then like having Mary Jane, who apparently was like privy to all this information as well, confirming that she knew that Gwen and Norman had like this little affair. It's
right.
Like, what?
Wait,
why?
I don't know enough about Spider-Man to know this offhand. Why would Mary Jane know? Because wasn't Mary Jane introduced after Gwen Stacy died?
No,
Like,
she was introduced way before she died, and they sort of had a bit of a
love triangle vibe?
Yeah, basically. Like, I mean, Mary Jane was sort of the flighty one who was just having a good time, and she wasn't really she didn't have much of a personality.
I'm very familiar with the concept of Saint Gwen.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently Mary Jane knew this the whole time, and she just didn't say anything to Peter.
Not her business.
It would be weird.
Not her business.
Get married to a guy and be like, "Hey, I got something to tell you. You're your old dead girlfriend,
the girl that you were devastated about."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know something that you don't know.
That no one wants to know.
But let me tell you anyway. So, do you know what love custard is?
When a man loves a teenage girl.
Ooh. But anyway, getting back to the story, Gabriel goes crazy. He finds one of Norman's hideouts, becomes the Grey Goblin, and he tries to kill Spider-Man, but
why?
Sarah.
Why gray though?
It's just whatever suit that was in the building.
So why did Norman have gray costumes?
He was saving it for his son.
Yeah, maybe. It probably was that, actually. I can't remember. I'm trying not to think too deeply about this.
All right, fair enough.
But anyway, so this all happens, and then Sarah like intervenes when Gabriel's about to like kill Spidey, because she has believed Peter's protestation saying that he didn't actually kill Gwen. It's all Norman Osborn. And then Gabriel ends up losing his memories, like a certain Dick Grayson.
Memory crystal?
No memory crystals involved in this one, unfortunately. That might have made the story better.
They just didn't find it.
It's there somewhere. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of this Sins Past storyline. But then it had like far-reaching effects further on. Like in the last few years, during Nick Spencer's run, we had the whole Kindred storyline, where this weird demon with creepy crawlies coming out of its jacket was sort of making deals with all of Spidey's villains and was kind of manipulating events to kind of conspire against both Spider-Man and Norman Osborn. And it turns out that basically Sarah and Gabriel weren't really Norman's kids. They were sort of clones, I guess, made from DNA from Norman and Gwen by, I believe it was like a Harry Osborn AI, which was the same Harry Osborn AI that had made the like robots of Peter Parker's parents and like made them reappear to kind of like fuck with him back in the early 90s.
Corey looks puzzled over something. I'm not quite sure what he would be puzzled about, because this all seems to make perfect sense to me.
Why can't they just fucking leave some of these characters dead?
I know.
Like, they keep fucking with Harry. I've never felt worse for a fictional character than Harry Osborn. It seems like his entire life was miserable, and then they just fuck with his corpse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's part of this Nick Spencer storyline, was that he was trying to tie up a lot of different loose ends.
Yeah, it sounds like there were a lot that needed tied up.
Because like after a storyline that may or may not be coming up later, Harry Osborn just turns up again and nobody questions it.
Suddenly alive.
He's just alive, but like they're never like. Hey, remember that time he died 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, so I think this storyline was trying to wrap that up as well.
Yes.
You know.
And again, poorly. But
right. I don't think that it ended spectacularly. It had a lot of potential at the beginning. The end of it, because he was trying to tie up a lot of messy loose ends, it all ended quite messily. And
but it's like
Corey was kind of like, it's done now. Let's move on with our lives, kind of thing.
It's like Corey was saying though, like, you could have just not done that. Like, just the Sarah and Gabriel storyline had basically finished after JMS left the book. I think there's one other like brief appearance where Gabriel came back and stole the American Sun armor and kind of went after Harry, who turns out wasn't Harry. Like that was the some existence of them in the comics, and people could have just like brushed it under the carpet, forget about it, never refer to it again. But instead, we had to tie it all back in and try and explain away the fact that, Saint Gwen didn't really have an affair with Norman Osborn, which, okay, that's a course correction I can get behind. Yeah. But then to, tie it all into like Mephisto making a deal with this Harry Osborn AI and Mendel Strom and the Chameleon and Mysterio, and like all of them kind of conspiring together to create these twins and then put the AI in, the twins' brain. So they've also been possessed by like Mephisto's demonic powers. And it's like, what? What are you doing? There's so
This
much
is a
going
lot
on
of
here.
this is a lot of work for a guy who gets fired from his job frequently.
Yeah.
Like when you think about like Peter Parker and you like just think of him like as just a guy, a character, you're like, this is a lot of work for a dude whose powers can do whatever a spider can.
Right. That's one of the things that bugged me was that the Mephisto thing, and there may be Mephisto coming up again. You're like, why would he give a fuck about Peter Parker? Like,
Well,
it's like they're treating him like he's Dr. fucking Doom or something.
Yeah.
Like just
he dresses up like a spider, and he doesn't even do it well. He's only got 2 arms.
I don't want to like step on your toes and you know, like with what you're going to be talking about in a bit, but it is basically because apparently, you know, Peter and Mary Jane had sort of rekindled their relationship, and part of like, you know, Mephisto's past with them was basically the end of that relationship. So I think he is conspiring with all these people and like, you know, setting up Kindred to go and fuck up Peter's life was to try and course correct on that, I guess.
But then again, and we'll talk about this, but I never understood why Mephisto would be like, I'm gonna break up your marriage, and like,
yeah,
you're like the Lord of Hell, like you've got other shit going on, like,
yeah, you have other things.
Why would you give a fuck about this random guy?
There are people constantly trying to take your title as Lord of Hell from you.
Strong
Guy's right over there.
Aunt May, baby Aunt May, sorry,
Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, me,
the rapper Johnny Blaze.
Yeah. A cat. Easy done. Anybody can be a Lord of Hell these days. If a cat can do it, I could do it. You know what I mean? Piece of piss.
That's basically it anyway.
So, yes. So, I guess that storyline was very controversial at the time. I appreciate that they tried to course correct it, but like there was a lot of nonsense. I remember hating it when I read it.
Oh, yeah.
So again, like, just to hit the high points. I don't like JMS as a writer, period, as a comic book writer, period. I'm sure Babylon 5 is fantastic.
And it's because of this.
Yeah. Well, it's just another in a long list of JMS doing random bullshit that other people have to clean up.
Yep.
Well, it happens all the fucking time with JMS.
I will say, apparently his original idea was for it to be Peter Parker, who was the kid's parents, but it was the editors at the time, Axel Alonso and Warren Simons, who basically said, oh no, we don't want to make Peter a father because then that ages him up. It's all like, it goes back to what we've talked before about like the breakup of like the Mary Jane marriage.
Alonso was the handpicked replacement for Joe Quesada, and Quesada was one of the people behind breaking up Mary Jane and Peter's marriage in the first place. So yeah. Fucking weirdo Quesada. But I guess my whole thing is like, wouldn't it, if the goal was to establish this new Goblin and then have the reveal be like, oh yeah, Gwen Stacy had these children with Norman Osborn, wouldn't it just be like a lot more straightforward to just have like, hey, there's a new Green Goblin. It's not Norman. Harry's dead. Who is this? And then you have a mystery, and then like you build clues, and then like you're seeing things referencing Gwen Stacy, and like then you have the reveal. Like that seems like way more of a comic book storyline than whatever the fuck that was.
Absolutely. I think they must have planned it the way they did was to just shock everyone right at the beginning, and thinking, oh, maybe this will be the big hook that like brings everyone in. Like Gwen's had twins, but clearly that's
why they started twins. It rhymed.
Apparently, though, even JMS was not happy with it. Like they did the big Marvel. They did the big Marvel 1000 issue like a couple of years ago, where like a bunch of different creators and artists like contributed towards it, and he had like a 1-page thing in it drawn by Ed McGuinness, where it was like various characters saying their biggest regrets, and one of the like, you know, drawings was of JMS just saying sins past. So at least he can sort of poke fun at it.
JMS,
well, then that's all right then.
There's a lot of stories of JMS at conventions not wanting to sign anything comic book related. Like he's clearly way more proud of his work with Babylon 5 than he ever was of comic books. It seems like this was just a gig for him that would pay the bills.
And understandably so, because as we covered, he's not very good.
Nope.
Introduces an idea, fucks shit up, leaves and lets someone else clean it up. He did it for Wonder Woman, did it for Superman, did it for Spider-Man.
He'll do it again.
He'll do it again because they'll still put him on books.
Fucking villain. At least he didn't sexually harass anybody.
That we know of.
Maybe
all right, Dylan. I think it's your turn now.
So, mine, I'm going to do a little bit of research on my phone. So if I'm looking at my phone, don't worry about it. Mine, I think this is the one I did last time. On the one we didn't air. It was either this one or the Goblin Jizz one. And I think it was this one. But I did. I picked a storyline called Spider-Man: One More Day. Which
infamous.
It's pretty well. That's the thing about both of these storylines is that like they're kind of notorious for being just dog shit. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one is I talked about it a few episodes ago. I feel like, but there was something in it that just annoyed me so much.
Yeah,
and it's not even like the Mephisto bit. It's just annoyed me so much.
So to kind of piggyback on that, it was worse deaths. Because we talked about that's where we started talking about One More Day.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So the what happens is Spider-Man reveals himself to be Peter Parker.
Pulls his dick right out.
Well, people need to see it on live television. Tony Stark's like, "Go ahead, Peter," and he's like, "The dick thing," because here it is. And Tony was like, "We're gonna have we're gonna have to blur that." He got amnesia dick.
It all there comes together. It all's coming together.
There it is. So, to show like solidarity with Tony Stark and Iron Man and his allegiances or whatever, Peter Parker is convinced to reveal his identity live on the television, which was a bad idea. And everybody knew it was a bad idea. And the Kingpin watches the TV, as he often does. What else has he got going on? Nothing. Watching TV. He sees that Peter Parker is revealed as be Spider-Man. And he doesn't like that. He's like, I got beat up by like this kid for so long. I gotta do something about this. So he hires a hitman to shoot Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man. This has been revealed that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are the same. The Kingpin has fought Spider-Man for 170 years. He's well aware of how this character works. And he thinks, I'll just hire a guy to shoot him.
Easy.
This has never, ever worked for me before in the past. And Lord knows I've tried. But this time, I'm just going to get someone to shoot him. So the sniper takes a shot at Peter Parker. Get this. His spider sense goes off, and he moves out of the way of the bullet. Which, I don't know, if you knew anything about Spider-Man for like 5 minutes, you would have been able to figure out. So once Peter Parker moves out of the way of the bullet accidentally catches Aunt May, and she gets amnesia and becomes Nightwing. So Aunt May is in like a critical condition. I don't think she technically died, so that means, you know, the placement on the worst deaths list. That's how bad that death was. It didn't even happen.
Yeah.
She's taken into intensive care, and Peter Parker is obviously very unhappy about the fact that his ancient grandmother,
decrepit,
aunt, not grandmother,
practically a mummy,
could potentially die like this, and he's very sad about this. We'll also cover the fact that he's already seen her die once before, but that was that was a different person. That Norman Osborn had plastic surgery to look like Aunt May. Normal, standard. We've heard what that guy's up to.
He goes through such extreme lengths to fuck with this kid.
Like in a way, I really like that. I'm like, he's just merciless. He will like, I'm just gonna fuck him. I'm gonna fuck his girlfriend. What do you think of that? Get some twins on the go. Goblin kids, little goblin babies, you know, goblin babies.
Goblin babies. Now, I do want to point out something. Because this is Kingpin, and he has hired a sniper to take a shot on Spider-Man, he knows how dense Spider-Man is, because he's exchanged punches with him. And it's like, Kingpin, big guy. I hit really hard. I hit this little dude, didn't smear him against the wall like it should have. Obviously, he's a bit durable. So you would think Sniper is going to be packing like elephant bullets, you know, the kind of shit's going to bring down a pachyderm.
Yeah.
So this old lady should have been fucking red mist against a wall.
Well, that's also part of it, is that it was just a regular sniper. It was just a regular bullet. And I'm like, why would the Kingpin be this stupid for no reason suddenly? He's just like, I gotta kill him. The only thing I can do is to the sniper, don't I? Like, if it was the Kingpin, he would have put a little bit more thought into it, I would imagine. So, like, this is my issue with this storyline. Obviously, there's a lot of other issues that we will cover, but my main issue is this part of it is so stupid. It's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It annoys me so much. Like, the Kingpin wouldn't be this dumb. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna hire a guy. Remember the bit in like Austin Powers where he's like, I'm gonna lure you into the sharks, and they're like, aren't you gonna watch and see if he does it? Like, no, I'm just gonna turn my back and assume that everything will be fine and it will go the way I expect it to go. That's how this feels. It's so like stupid and lazy, and like, I just assume he'll get shot with no evidence to say that this is what would ever happen. So that annoyed me. But Aunt May's in a critical condition, and Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is like, I gotta do something to save my aunt, because if she dies, boy howdy, my life will change completely. If I don't have this old lady in my life, what will I do? She's the reason that I'm Spider-Man. Without her, I will be nothing. He gets very morose about this. And so he then decides to make a deal with Mephisto, the devil, the Lord of Hell, or one of the Lords of Hell. There are many. One of them's a cat. And Mephisto is like, here's what we're going to do, kid. I like you. I like your moxie. I like your face that doesn't have a bullet hole in it. I like that. What we're going to do is I'm going to take away the fact that everybody in the world knows you're Spider-Man. I'm going to heal your old aunt and make her not about to die. And in return for that, I want your marriage to Mary Jane Watson to not be a thing. And Peter Parker's like, okay. He obviously thinks about it for a little bit. He has to talk to his wife. It's like, hey, wife, I got something I want to talk to you about. Maybe we could. How would you feel if I invited Mephisto over next week for dinner and talk, because there's some stuff I've had on my mind. He doesn't think this is a good thing, you and me. But on the flip side, that old lady will come back to life. So, what do you think? I know you're pretty happy with me and my radioactive semen. We've covered that plenty of times. But maybe it'd be better if Mephisto just... Oh, Corey has something to say about radioactive semen, I believe.
I have a comment. Do you think the deal was just Mephisto looking out for Mary Jane?
Because he fancies Mary Jane.
He's like, listen, this guy you're with, he's no good. His semen, radioactive. Poison. Your teeth's going to start falling out. Your hair's going to start falling out. You're going to be in some bad physical shape if you keep this up.
Yeah,
Me, though, get away. Lord of Hell.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the story about Hades and Persephone.
My semen is pure fire, so that will rip your insides out completely, and you will die immediately.
My penis is corkscrewed and barbed.
Yeah, and it is pure lava.
It is very uncomfortable, but I know how to treat you right.
Yeah. So, what do you think? You know, so it's a way to like reset everything, and they do reset everything. And obviously, Peter Parker says, I'm going to go with this deal. I'm going to ignore the love of my life, who I've loved and who has been by my side through thick and thin. I think we can all agree. She has been,
at that point,
she has been very, very good to me.
Very forgiving.
Yes.
of my husband turning up covered in fucking bullet wounds to bed.
Yeah. Like, the Chameleon tried to kidnap me a bunch of times. You know, there's other supervillains have come after me. Yada, yada. There's been a lot of stuff that she stood by and just went with. And this all was like an unnecessary thing. Like, they didn't have to reveal Peter Parker as Spider-Man. And then to cover for that, they didn't have to do any of this. It's so like badly thought out. They didn't have to make a deal with Mephisto. Like, they didn't have to fuck with. I know historically, a lot of people in Marvel didn't really like the Mary Jane Peter Parker marriage, and they wanted to get rid of it. But like, this is all so unnecessary to get to that point. I don't see why making a deal with Mephisto, who hasn't really focused in on Spider-Man at all. I don't understand why Mephisto would want that as a bargaining chip. It doesn't seem to make any sense. I'm going to take your wife away from you, and then you're not going to remember that you were married, so it's not going to have any... Because if it was for Mephisto to, like, fuck with Peter Parker by saying, you're no longer married, the love of your life is gone, now you have to live with that forever... Ha ha ha, torment. I like that because I'm the devil. But that didn't really happen. What really happened was they just were not married and they didn't remember that. So you're like, well, then what's the point? What is the end game? Why would he do this? He has nothing to gain from this. It was all just real bad. Now, I should probably say, I should look up who wrote it and when they wrote it.
Go
ahead, John.
You'll be surprised to hear that it was JMS who wrote this one as well.
Well, guess who else wrote it?
Joe Quesada.
Correct.
Quesada had such a weird... I don't know if it just, for some reason, this was like a thing in the 2000s because they did the same thing with DC when they relaunched the New 52. It's like the characters are younger now, and like we don't need them to be like in relationships and marriages and stuff because that means that they're old.
Yeah.
So like when DC relaunched the New 52, what happened was like established couples were broken apart. Like they were too young to be a couple. So the big one being Clark Kent and Lois Lane, who had been married since the 1980s, were like, you know, Clark and Lois were not together and Lois was dating other guys and Clark was this sort of like unrequited love until he got with Wonder Woman in a relationship that a lot of people were still really weird about, like Superman and Wonder Woman being a couple. But yeah, there was such a weird that 2000s area up until like the early 2010s when like the New 52 launched and everything. People had a weird hatred for characters being in established relationships because they thought it made them less marketable somehow.
It is weird because like, yeah, nobody ever gets married when they're 18, right? That never happens.
Yeah, right?
Ridiculous. You know, I don't see how that's like.
So you said something and it reminded me something that DC did.
Is it the semen thing?
Kind of. Because we talked about the Flash, and this has to do with the Flash. Remember, the Flash's romantic partners, they also age slowly like he does because of proximity. Yeah.
So you call it proximity.
Proximity.
There it is.
So anyway, when they undid the New 52 with Rebirth, Wally West was a character that he was the Flash in the 90s. He was the fastest man alive, the fastest Flash. They excluded him from the New 52 because they thought it was redundant to have that many Flashes, and they wanted to bring back Barry Allen. They were really big on bringing back Barry Allen because the people in charge of decision making were in that Joe Quesada school of, this isn't, I was a little kid and Spider-Man was a single loser, so Spider-Man needs to be a single loser again. These people, Jeff Johns was like, Barry Allen's the Flash, and he's the one who needs to be the Flash because Barry Allen's the Flash. So let's get rid of every other Flash except Barry Allen. Despite the fact that Barry Allen had been gone for 20 years at that point, and no one really seemed to care that much.
Right. People have moved on.
Exactly. So when they did Rebirth, Wally from the previous continuity got brought into the main continuity again. Like he got pulled back in, and he one of the things that made the 90s Flash so nice was that he was a married man and he had children. And a lot of the flashback was about his relationship with his wife and his kids, because it wasn't like like they don't know my secret. It was like, no, he's incredibly upfront about everything with his wife. Like he let her know, like, hey, weird shit's happening and I need to protect you guys, kind of stuff. So when they brought him into the main continuity, nobody remembered Wally at first, but people gradually did. But in the new continuity, his wife had never met him before, obviously. So he didn't have his wife, and he didn't have his children. And a lot of some of those early Wally West stories were him like struggling to like live this life, because he had all of his memories and all of his past experiences, but the reality was different. So he remembered his wife and he remembered his kids, but his kids didn't exist and his wife was a stranger to him. So like that sounds like that would have been better used for one more day of Spider-Man having all of the memories of his relationship with Mary Jane and not being able to have it.
Yeah.
That seems
way more sense.
Like torture, like a demon, devil, lord of hell would probably want to do to someone.
Right. That's it was a bad story. Really.
Yeah.
Just I again, it's them trying to fix problems that they started themselves. There's no need for any of this, and then they fixed it in such a half-assed, like nonsensical, not even like a Spider-Man kind of way. None of this was like I would read this in a Spider-Man book. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this is how Spider-Man would solve this problem. Spider-Man came out of it looking like a fucking idiot all the time, and I'm like that. I don't think that's a good solution. So then after that, they did Brand New Day, and they kind of like, I think like whenever they do Brand New Day, it's like 6 months after that, and Harry Osborn's alive, and Mary Jane is like friendly with Peter, but not really, and they're kind of like, oh, just whatever. I'm single, and I'm Peter Parker, and I'm always single, and they just moved on, went on with their life. But that was another thing as well. They never explained why Harry Osborn came back. He just was there, and you're like,
just as a result of it. Something about Mary Jane and Peter getting married resulted in Harry's death.
And him, yeah, like that was never in the original issues. That was never part of the bargaining.
Just tossed it in for free. Hey, I'm gonna give you your old best friend back.
Nobody gives a fuck about Harry Osborn. Here, you can have him. He's been in hell for ages, and I hate him. I don't like looking at his stupid hair.
He's so annoying.
Get him out of here. Take him. But I want your wife, though. I mean,
putting Peter in the cuck chair.
That's what they call him. So that's it. I hate that storyline. I also hate the one John picked. So
Spider-Man's been through tough times, and it seems like because the character is so popular, I feel like they feel the need to do these really big things with him, but you don't really need to, because I think, again, we talked about this previously, I kind of like Spider-Man more as a street-level character than putting him in all of this weird shit.
It gets way too big. Like, all of this shit that we were talking about with the 8 deaths of Spider-Man. I'm like, why do you have to kill him at all? What are you doing? Like, all this is so, like, not Spider-Man.
All of the Spider-Verse storylines and crossovers and stuff.
It gets really like big and silly and hard to follow, and like Spider-Man's just this. If Spider-Man's supposed to be this like regular ass loser who you're supposed to identify with, what's all this other shit about? If him getting married was hard to identify with, killing him and bringing him back to life 8 times is relatable. Like, what are we doing?
Can I say also, like, I think that may be one of those big reasons why I don't read Spider-Man. It just seems like it's really hard to jump into at the moment. Yeah.
I feel like that's like the problem with it now is that it's just so big and grandiose and just impossible to follow, and that sucks because I love Spider-Man, but like this is way more complicated than the Clone Saga. It's just like so much unnecessary gubbins,
I just love that JMS appeared in this episode twice. If I had known, I would have brought back up his grandiose storyline of having Superman walk across the country.
He just loves fucking stuff up.
And not finishing it, because we'd also talked about his Wonder Woman storyline as well, where the biggest sin was he gave Wonder Woman pants.
That was bad though.
It was bad.
Should not have done that.
No. Well, anybody have any thoughts on anything we discussed? Any of the conversations made you think about any other storylines you thought were kind of reprehensible?
I mean, these ones are pretty bad.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
The only other one I can think of is maybe Cry for Justice, which was a really unfortunate Justice League series that led to a lot of really unfortunate spin-offs. But that's another tale for another time.
We'll save that for the next episode.
We'll save it for the next episode. All right. John, you recently saw Captain America Brave New World. Do you want to give us a real quick idea of your opinions on it?
I mean, it was okay. It wasn't great. It was basically felt like it was trying to recapture the whole Winter Soldier conspiracy thriller vibes, but the actual conspiracy itself wasn't that exciting, and there wasn't like a very good villain in this to kind of get behind either.
There are three villains. How could there not have been one good one?
Well,
Seth Rollins wasn't in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Burn it down. Burn it down.
It feels weird that they finally bring back Tim Blake Nelson to kind of, be Samuel Stearns again and like embrace the leader that was teased all the way back in Hulk, way back in the day.
2009?
Yeah, 8 or 9, something like that. But then they don't really do a lot of interesting stuff with him, so it's a bit like, well, what was the point? But like, Harrison Ford is all over this movie, and Harrison Ford is Harrison Ford. He's pretty damn good, so can't complain about that.
I'm 8 years old.
Yeah,
I'm tired. I did my own stunts. I fell down.
It's a really good impression.
Don't ask me about Star Wars. I don't give a shit. Oh dear. So John, if they want to see potentially a more in-depth review of Captain America: Brave New World, where can they find you?
They can find me on Letterboxd at Big Jombowski, or one word.
Wang, what's going on in the world of Captain Explodey?
Legally, I'm not allowed to talk about it. It's a secret. It's a big
Wang.
Conspiracy. Secret Wang. Amnesia Dick.
Close relative of Amnesia
Third
Dick.
time. There you go. Just buy my book.
There you go.
It's on Amazon. Buy it. It's really good or bad, dependent. Just buy it. You can burn it. I don't care.
All right, and I've got another podcast called Large Old Cup. It is a stream of consciousness / spoken word storytelling podcast. And give it a go. Until then, if you're watching this on YouTube, check us out on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. We're going to go for now, though, because we have things to do.
Busy Bye-bye. People. Got a lot of stuff to do. A lot of people to kill. I mean, not kill.
I got to look up a recipe for egg custard? What was it?
Yeah. Egg custard? That's just custard.
Love custard.
Egg custard.
Listen, it's been really gross.
All of our episodes are gross.
It's becoming that way.
Mm-hmm.
That what makes them so good.
So delicious.
I thought it was all the pineapple you were eating.
That's part of it too.
All right, bye everybody.
All right, see you later.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.